Picking up where I left from, I've got all my pattern pieces ready for the next step. I laid out my front pieces of wadding and my fashion fabric in order to see my pocket placements. Before I put the pockets on, I created the horizontal lines that go on the puffer jacket. To draw the horizontal lines, I used a ruler for every 2 turns, but you can literally just measure an equal distance apart and draw the lines in. I did the same thing for the back pieces, the front pieces, as well as the sleeves. Once the lines have been sewn on, they will look something like this, so it's actually starting to look a little bit more like a puffer jacket. I then proceeded to add the pockets to the front pieces of the jacket. I took away 1 centimeter from each edge of the wadding pieces of the pockets. For each pocket, sandwich the wadding in between the 2 pieces of fabric that you want, so the lining will go on the inside and the fashion fabric will go on the outside. You can't tell from my material because it's all black, but when doing this you want your fashion fabric with the right side out. Pin and sew across all the edges of the pocket. Place the pocket where you want it to sit on the front of the jacket. To sew the pocket to the jacket, you want to turn in the edges and top stitch across all the edges apart from the opening of the pocket, which I actually forgot to sew first, but I will show you that in a minute. Yeah, this is the back piece. I'm now going to put it all together, and if you remember, my back piece had this little seam here, which basically is going to leave a gap on the back of the jacket. So what I'm going to do is try and find where that sits, just so that I know where I'm cutting, because these pieces all put together are very, very heavy. So I'm going to try and mark the dot that I have on here. I'm going to use the clips and make sure that the sewing, which is what allows me to make the jacket puffy, matches up on either side of the back piece. So I'm going to do that. Put a clip there. And then where I want to stop, I'm going to add 2 clips. So I'm going to go ahead and sew right across from there all the way up of the back piece. So once that's all sewn together, it's going to look something like this. So once that's all done to the standard that we want, I'm going to attach the back piece to the front piece, and then we can start putting it all together with inserting the lining and everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and take the front piece. So these are the front pieces. I'm going to pin them right sides together, pin that all together, and then sew the side seams and the shoulder seams. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So once all that is done, it's going to start looking like a bit of a proper jacket, but it's going to look something like this. And what I'm going to do now is attach the sleeves to the armholes, and then I'm just going to cut off this excess fabric just so it makes it easier to line up the outside fabric to the lining to all the edges. So I'm just going to cut that off. Obviously, just be careful when you're cutting that you're not cutting any pieces underneath that you shouldn't be cutting off. Otherwise, that would be a huge problem. Now I'm going to attach the sleeves to the jacket. And the easiest way that I find to do that is to insert the sleeve, matching the side seam to the seam of the sleeve, inserting that right sides together and pinning that whole section. Pin all around here, do the same for the other side, and just sew it all together. So I'm going to do that now and I'll come back and show you. So once that's done, it's going to look something like this. It looks a little stiff, but hopefully once it's all done, it will sit a little bit nicer. Now I'm going to attach the collar of this jacket to the neckline of the jacket, and the way I'm going to do that is to do right sides together the outside fabric and pin it to the neck all the way around. So I started sewing the collar of the jacket, and then I realized I want the hood to sit in between the collar of the jacket and the actual jacket itself. The way that I need to do that is work on the hood, attach it all together, and then once that's done, this can then be sandwiched in between the outside of the jacket and the collar. But what I've done is sew the hood, the outside of the hood, in the same manner as I did the lining of it. What I'm going to do now is do the same to the padded portion of the hood. The next step is to attach the hood, outside fabric, lining and the padding together. And the way that you do that is to take your padding, place your outside fabric with the right side out over the padding of the hood, and then you want to take your lining piece wrong side out on top of the outside fabric. So basically the outside fabric and the lining are going to be right sides together. What you're going to do is to obviously match all the edges or the seams of your padding, your lining and your outside fabric, and pin all of that together. Once that is all done, I'm going to go around and sew a 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around, but ignoring the edge that meets the neck of the jacket. So I won't sew down here, but I'm going to sew all these other seams and edges, and we'll come back and see how that looks. So once I've sewn everything together, I turned it inside out with the lining on the inside looking nice, and then I've got the outside as it should be, and I've left this side open. What you could go ahead and do is top stitch across there to make the lining stay inside of the jacket so it doesn't come on the outside. Give it a good press and then sew it. So what I'm going to do is attach this to the neck of the jacket. So initially what I started to do was to put this together, but then I realized I want this hood to sit in between these two layers, and the best way to do it is this way. So this is now going to go in between there, in between the collar and the outside of the jacket. So once that's all sewn together, the hood will look something like this. This is the collar that goes in between, and then I'm going to attach the lining to the inside of this jacket. So now what I want to do is to work on attaching the lining and the zip and everything else. So let's get the zip. So now what I'm going to do is attach the zip to the outside of this jacket. And I think the best way for me to do that is to start at the top and do the zip, and take the left hand side of the zip with the teeth facing out. So I ended up getting COVID. This is about a week later and I am slightly out of breath throughout this video, so sorry about that, guys. Okay, so it's been a few days. Your girl has been ill and I don't even know where I left off, but what I'm gonna do is just pick up from where I feel like I need to pick up from. So I have pinned the zip to the jacket and what I'm gonna do is just base stitch it just to hold it in place. I need to add the underlay just to go there on the jacket, so I'll be adding that as well. So I'll sew it across down here, sew it down here, turn it inside out and then attach it to the top of this zip, and then we'll go from there. I'll show you guys all the steps, but let's just work step by step. Just trying to get my head back into it. So that's what I'm going to do now. So once that's all done, I do highly recommend that you press these down. But what you want to do then is to pin them to your zip. Okay, so once all of that is done, it's going to start looking something like this. So the zips are all attached and they all line up because I've tried it, and now we're going to attach the lining. And the way that I'm going to do that is to take the lining, have it, because essentially you want the lining to face this way and you put it inside the jacket to have the nice shiny side facing outside so you can see it. So what you want to do is take the right side of, I've sewed that on wrong, this shiny side should have been this side, but for the purposes of this video it doesn't actually matter, so it's fine. What you want to do is take the right side, which is obviously not the wrong side, but the right side of the lining, flip it and attach right side to this side of the collar, which is the right side of the collar, and attach those two ends like that. And we'll do that now and come back. Depending how you want to finish your jacket off, you can go ahead and also do the same to the base of the jacket. So as a last minute addition, I found this tube of fabric, the cording, we'll go through that. So the jacket is now nearly done. I've gone ahead and just top stitched this gap here just for it to have a better finish, which I'm really excited about. I can't wait to see the finished product. And now I just need to sort out the hem of this jacket. And remember I took these off before? Well, this is what I'm going to use to hem this jacket. My other option was to use bias binding, which depending how this goes I might still use, but for now I'm just using these. These is basically excess material from a pair of trousers that I bought, one of those wraparound trouser things, but I didn't like the belt, so I cut them off and they're actually coming in handy. So what I'm going to do is to basically pin it across here and then bring it on the other side, and basically creates the hem to this jacket. And the reason I've chosen to do the hem this way is because of the measurement of the zip. I can't bend the zip anymore, I can't do any of that, so I just basically need to hide all the raw edges with this. So what I'm going to do is turn this over, sew across here, pin it, Once the hem was done, the jacket was basically done. I'm so happy with how it turned out, but also a little bit glad it's over. But this was a really, really good project.